Good morning. Good morning. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So, here's what happened. I was doing my research for the show this morning. I was reading articles, and one of the things that is popping up is there's a lot about mass shooting that happened on Monday in Philadelphia. No surprise, it's another trans activist. And of course, that's trending all over Twitter. And I read some articles, and I thought to myself, you know what? I just don't want to talk about this shit. I just don't. So instead, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story. And then I'm just going to look at some Twitter with you, because there are some things going on that are interesting, entertaining, worth looking at a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and close these articles about the trans shooter, because I don't care today. Maybe we cover it tomorrow, and I'll talk about it in a little more detail, because there is something to talk about there. But if you notice that the title of this episode is Why the Brushfiremind, and unfortunately, I don't see the banhammer in the thread. I was hoping Steve Rodemeyer would be watching this morning, because he gets a lot of credit for this. The name of the show, the name of the overall show is The Brushfiremind. That is because when we were talking about what to call the show, we talked about what would make a catchy phrase, what sounds cool, and how and how that would jive with the objective, with what we want to do with the show. We were always pretty sure that the tagline needed to be something like "The truth should matter," which is our main tagline. The truth should matter. And as we talked about it, Steve Rodemeyer suggested the Brushfiremind based on a quote from Samuel Adams. It does not take a majority, but rather a tireless and irate minority setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. And that became kind of the guiding principle of the show, is the idea that a small handful of people willing to take action can spread the thought, can spread the idea of that action like a brush fire, which, if you've never seen a brush fire in real life, that is a thing to behold. Just take one socked foot and light a cigarette lighter next to it and watch the rippling flame run up it and puff out at the end. That's a start. That's kind of it's kind of an interesting analogy to the image. So the idea has always been to discuss culture and politics, and discuss how liberty and prosperity and the good old traditional American spirit and rugged individuality stack up to, compare with, fit into, or are represented or insulted or anti-represented by the tenets that we see throughout culture and politics and general social order. It has not been a great run for American rugged individualism and liberty for the past several years. Ever since the election of Joe Biden, things have been looking pretty grim, and we've tried to stay positive through all of that. I'm a big believer that anything you can't do anything about isn't worth worrying about. Now, that idea, don't worry about anything you can't do anything about, let me just clarify something. Something is something. It may feel like there's something going on that you can't do anything about, but let me tell you something that is true. Like here on the show, this is not a huge show, right? We get a few thousand viewers, many of whom are, like those of you watching now, dedicated, habitual viewers, and we could not appreciate you more. We could not appreciate you more. Absolutely love seeing you guys, and it really is the best part of my day. Starting off with a cup of coffee with my friends. But even though we're a small show, I know that you guys out there, just a few thousand, are sharing the show. I know that because our subscriber count keeps going up, our viewer count keeps going up. People are clearly watching the show. People clearly enjoy the show, and that warms my heart. Now, I used to suspect. We'll talk a little bit about the censorship regime for a second here in this context. For a while there, at the beginning, we were only on YouTube. And then we were only on YouTube and Facebook, and that was mostly a function of my understanding of the technology. And then after we broke 500 subscribers on YouTube, I went ahead and sprung for the Restream platform. Excuse me. So that we could be on as many platforms as Restream will connect to. So we're now we're on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, and a few others. Most of the others are exclusive to some foreign entities. So like there's a Korean channel that we're on. There's a Middle Eastern channel that we're on, and we get a lot of views there too. But before I pulled that trigger, our growth to 500 subscribers on YouTube was excruciatingly slow. I see creators in Facebook groups talk about their YouTube journey. Like, I just joined a year ago and I just hit 10,000 subscribers. Well, how the hell did you do that? And it turns out, they're doing something that has a broad interest base, or they're very good at the search engine optimization. And maybe, at some point I started to wonder, well, maybe what I'm talking about just isn't actually what people are interested in. Maybe people just don't like freedom. And there is a lot of that. That is true. I'll go into that a little more, but in a minute. But that people just are afraid of freedom. I get it. Freedom is scary. And if any person who doesn't think that freedom, that actual liberty, is terrifying, doesn't honestly understand what it is. But I'll get back to that in just a minute. So over several years, it was a slow crawl to 500 subs on YouTube. Well, we're about to break that on Rumble, and we've only been hot on Rumble for a little over a year. So seeing how fast we've grown on other platforms, right, before in the slow slog to 500 on YouTube, I thought maybe I'm doing something wrong, or the message just isn't what people want to hear. The show's just not the kind of thing that people like to watch. And no, it really is the censorship thing. And it's not just my suspicion because of the apparently retarded rate of growth that we saw on YouTube, but we've been thrown off of YouTube, given community guideline strikes several times where there was no strike. We said something that the zeitgeist wants not said, and YouTube would give us a strike and throw us off. I'd file an appeal immediately. The appeal would go through immediately. The channel would be restored, right? Which, let's be clear, when you file an appeal and YouTube restores the channel and the appeal is successful, what has just happened is YouTube has admitted fault. And not just fault. They've not just admitted that they were wrong, but they have admitted that they have violated their own policy by misapplying it. Right? Every time you file an appeal against a YouTube strike, what you're actually doing is you're filing a notice of intent to pursue civil litigation. You're saying, you've done wrong, and I'm going to take action against your wrongdoing, which has caused me demonstrable, measurable harm. And then they restore the show, which is a tacit admission that they have broken the contract, because there is a contract, right? That's what a user terms of service is. It is, you agree to provide me the service, and I agree to use the service in the way that you describe its use. The Fit Life with Danielle says, YouTube banned Alex and me with no third strike. Yeah. Which is insane. So basically there's ample evidence that our early slow growth was in fact due to intentional censorship. And we get the trolls, we get the violent commenters, the threats, and all that stuff. That's part of doing this. It's part of doing this thing. And I mean, come on, guys, bring the threats, bring the comments, bring the troll crap. You're looking at a guy who has had fatwas and is still here. So your little lefty feminoids and their threats of violence aren't going to faze me much. You're not the Taliban, and they couldn't do it. So good luck. Now, as far as the idea that I touched on a minute ago, people just aren't interested in freedom, or you should understand that freedom is terrifying. The idea of patriarchy and the oppression of women and feminism and the oppression of every non-white male, non-cis, non-this, non-. You've got your whole pyramid of tyranny, right? At the top of which sits conceptually the straight, white, born male, conservative Christian. You know, decent people. And every checkbox that you can mark to get you further down the pyramid is political and cultural capital that you can spend, and it actually exchecks for literal money. You can buy a life, you can make a living checking boxes away from being a straight white male. Dylan Mulvaney is a perfect example. But the fact of the matter is that the history of the world is not the oppression of everybody and everything everywhere except for straight white men by straight white men. It's a lot like the way that they describe the gender pay gap, right? That obnoxious mythology. Like, oh, well, women only make 87% of what a man makes. You get that figure by taking all men and averaging out their earnings, and then taking all women and averaging out their earnings, and finding a discrepancy between those two numbers. That's insane. Because the all men category includes billionaire CEOs and porta potty cleaners. The average there versus women who do not include as many CEOs and do not include almost any porta potty cleaners. Guys, I've worked on construction sites, military yards, festivals. I've worked places with porta potties since I was in my 20s, since I was in my teens. I have met exactly one woman, and if I'm being fair, she was smoking hot. I wish Steve was in here because he remembers this chick that drove a honey wagon. One. And that was in like 99 or 2000. And she told us, hey, they pay me $26 an hour to drive this truck and clean these porta potties. I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. At $26 an hour, and you show up on construction sites in Daisy Dukes and a halter top to run a machine. I bet you never buy a beer, do you, sunshine? But the fact is, women choose not to go into the dirty, nasty professions that pay a little more, and they choose not to trade away 110 hours a week into the C-suite a lot more than men do. The disparity there is one of choice. And that choice is a result of responsibility. This is why freedom, actual liberty, is terrifying. Because the history of the world before commerce, right? I'm not to capitalism yet, just commerce. Just the idea of, basic barter, trading goods. I have a surplus, I'll trade you some of my surplus for your different surplus. And now we both have adequate stocks of diverse Hey, there's one for you, of a diverse inventory, i.e. grain for fur, meat for berries, etc. The history of the world up until that point is actual liberty. Actual total liberty. Where you have the freedom to starve to death if you won't get up off your lazy ass and go kill something for breakfast. You could, in fact, disappear into the woods, live in a cave, kill breakfast every morning, and nobody will bother you if you go far enough into the woods. That is pure freedom, pure liberty. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's hard. It terrifies most people. And they don't even quite realize it. So what happens on the left is they run from that in the extreme. Their objective being, and they don't even realize it. They don't even have the cognitive awareness to process the distinction. They run from the responsibility of absolute freedom by attempting to force other people, that would be the other taxpayers, not the government, the taxpayer, to take on that responsibility on their behalf. That's the truth that should matter, right? Every time a person votes for an expanded government program, anything that's going to cause taxes to increase, you're not demanding that the government does something for you. Even demanding that they fix the roads, you're not demanding that the government does something for you. You're demanding that everybody else be forced at gunpoint and against their own volition to take an action on your behalf. And in most cases, so when you're talking about a road, when you're talking about a new road, that is an action being taken on behalf of everybody that's going to make use of that road. That is the majority. And fact is, because truck drivers have to use those rugs to move product for us, if you live in America and a road is fixed, that benefits you. And that's the kind of shit the government's supposed to be for, right? We, the people, have shit to do. So we employ a service staff to do the dishes. I'm too busy doing business, serving my customers, to spend all my time dusting lamps and vacuuming carpets. That's what I have a government for. It's the service staff that we hired to handle the housekeeping so that we can go manage the plantation. That's what the government's supposed to be. So every time you demand that the government do something for, our ethnic group in this locality is underfunded for our public education. I see. You want to buy your kids some new computers, so instead of going and making some money, socking it back and doing what you need to do, you're going to go wave a gun at the entire country and just demand that everybody else pay for it. That's what that is. And unfortunately, this conversation is going to spin off into talking about property tax if I don't go ahead and put a pin in it. And if I get down that particular route, we'll be here all day. So, I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it for this morning. I'm almost out of coffee. And I'm going to wish you all a happy free year following the 4th. I hope you guys had a great day yesterday. I know me and one of my kids, most of my kids just flopped out and went to sleep early last night, but me and one of the kids went and stood in the driveway and watched the championship-winning Georgia Bulldogs, who were parked in the driveway next door to us, burn about $3,000 in the yard, and that was quite a show they put on last night. I noticed that the neighbors across the street were out watching it too. They did a pretty good job last night, and they went a little past 10, but not much. One of the things that was trending on Twitter this morning was "Go the hell to bed." You know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Put the fireworks away. They pushed on till almost 11, but they did eventually run out and give up. They didn't keep us up all damn night, and that is also greatly appreciated. And just this last little bit, Pitt Danny says he watched John Adams on HBO yesterday. I have seen I've only seen the first episode. I think it's a 6-part miniseries, the John Adams miniseries, and I've only seen, I think, the first episode because it's not fit for the children, which is to say it is a graphically accurate account of the events surrounding John Adams. And like when they tar and feather the guy, many of us grew up thinking that to be tarred and feathered is a comedy routine from a Bugs Bunny cartoon. My man, no, that's not a pretty thing at all. That is legitimate, serious torture. But I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it there. Thanks for watching this morning, guys. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.